Kim, what do most staffing firms get wrong when trying to acquire new clients?
Actually, Brad, there's a few things that they get wrong. I think it all starts with first identifying who your ideal customer profile actually is, right? I think staffing companies can sometimes fall into the trap of, gosh, they took our phone call. They must be a perfect target for us. So we need to actually have thoughtful targets and determine, who can we service, right? What type of customer do we want from an industry standpoint? What type of rate structure do we thrive in? What type of process do we thrive in? What locations can we service? Because I think sometimes we can get guilty of, let's just go get the business no matter who it is. And if it doesn't match our ideal profile or our capabilities, we'll figure it out later. And often what happens is, as we know, Brad, staffing companies don't figure it out. They have a lackluster performance or worse yet, crash and burn. So I think it starts with, number one, the right target of companies that we align and match to from a capability and process standpoint. Second, I think the other thing that they do is they give up too fast, right? So you and I both know that when we get an MSA with a company, all that is, Brad, it's a hunting license, right? We can now go out, hunt, we can meet people, we can build relationships. And I think we're of this immediate gratification mindset in staffing that as soon as we get that MSA, we should be capitalizing on that and, turning that into revenue. Well, you and I both know sometimes that can take months to maybe even a year to really learn like their process, the type of candidates that work and what their flow is. So I think we give up far too quickly. And we say, oh gosh, this is a terrible account after all. And then we put it in the parking lot and we go out and chase the next shiny object. So, I think that's, again, that's the tenacity once we get it. And then ahead of time, chasing and targeting the right accounts that will align to us, not just anyone who will take our phone call.
How do you propose we have the right targets when it's hard to sell right now?
Right.
It's hard to get clients right now. And a lot of the people that I'm talking to, they will take any business they can get. Mm-hmm. How do you propose we have the courage to say no to an order if it's not the right order?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, I'd say the type of targets that I look for, and I feel like that my team has been successful with as well as me, are companies that are in growth mode, which is obvious, or trouble, right? Whenever there's trouble, issues, problems, and pain points, that's typically where we can thrive. But to take it back to your question, we really have to do a self-analysis and evaluation of our capabilities and our footprint, right? What skill sets can we deliver? Do we have expertise in a certain industry or do we know nothing about it? Geographically, can we align? Can we deliver at the pricing point that they're giving us, right? And if the answer to any of those questions is no, I think the first step is to sit down with that particular client and have a great two-way conversation to say, hey, we want to help you. We're here to service you and fill your needs. But, partnership is shared risk, shared reward, right? And here are some of the things that we need to help to be successful in this relationship, right? And if those things, take shape and they do evolve, then of course we can be successful. But if we can't, it's so much better it'll have so much more respect for us if we say, hey, right now, we're not the best business partner for you. We can't service you in your current model and show up. So it's best that, we don't put you through this, right? And we don't pretend and have a facade. And then, by the way, here's who I can refer you to, that can go and do the right job for you. And what I found is I've had to do that a lot in my career. Where somebody wants to hire procurement needs and we didn't do that, or it was a location where I knew that we would fail miserably. What happens is that particular client, beyond having respect for you, they'll actually come back to you in the future because you treated them, you were upfront, you were honest, and you treated them well with a long-term mindset, and they'll come back in the future when the need arises and circumstances change and you can provide what they need from a skill set standpoint. So doing the right thing will come back around to you. It's just really having the courage to have that conversation to try to make it better and make it a better match or marriage, if you will. And then if that can't be done, honestly, we're not the best partner to service you, right? And walk. And it'll come back around to you in spades, typically in a good way.
Do you find that referral program, and I say that loosely, of, we can't support you, but I know Kim and Kim can.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that most staffing firms are doing that, or is that a best practice that you think they should be doing?
It's something that I personally started to do. And, I found that, I'm like, okay, there's plenty of, my theory is, or my thought is, there's plenty of business out there to go around for every staff company, right? So if I refer company X to a company that I know that does an amazing job at healthcare staffing and we're not so good at it, it'll eventually come back to me, and perhaps that company gives me a referral, right? And even if they don't give me a referral or ever even give me a thank you, I look at it this way: there's so much other business out there to capture, within the United States, that it's really not going to impact me or cripple me by telling one particular customer that I can't service them the right way.
I love the idea. I will say a lot of conversations I'm having, I feel like the companies, at least that I'm talking to, are getting away from that. This is our lane, and this is the exact target that we serve and the target audience that we serve. And it's sort of starting to deviate of, we can also do this or we can also do that, because orders are so hard to come by. And I support exactly what you're saying. Niche down, be very, very specific and particular with who you serve, and own that market. The more that you can be seen as the expert in that space, the better, because as you start to dilute that, you people don't know what you can do. They don't know when to come to you, because they don't have that sort of, this is Kim, this is what she does mindset.
You make an incredible point. Industry or skill set specialization, I think, is huge today, because the days of the generalist are over, right? Because if you approach it that you can do everything for everybody, then ultimately you're going to be good at nothing for everybody, right? So I think if a particular staffing company can double down on, hey, these are the skill sets that we're good at delivering. These are the industries where we have case studies, we have proven track record. This is what we've delivered for other clients within your industry. That's strong. Because it shows that, they're not taking a gamble or a risk on you, and they don't have to teach you their industry, right? And this is a short example that I sold government solutions for many years. And it was very strong to be able to go to an integrator and say, hey, I understand what it's like to find candidates that need a security clearance, or get this clearance for them and hold their clearance. Here's where we've done it. Here's how we've approached it. Here's where we found the people. And it really was like, lifting a curtain, because they said, okay, wow, they get it. They've done it before. They have a methodology in place. They know what they're doing. I don't have to train them. I don't have to take a game. So you make a great point.
Yeah. One of the analogies that I believe David Stearns, our CEO, actually mentioned a while ago is, you wouldn't go to your family doctor if you needed brain surgery.
Exactly.
Or, if you need something done to your knee is not operating the way that it should, you wouldn't go to a generalist for it. You'd go to a knee specialist. And I think we as an industry get away from that. We try to be generalists. We try to be all things to all people,
right?
But no one wants that. We want specialization. We want somebody to say, no, I specialize in the knee, and I can help you if you need knee surgery.
Exactly. And to further that, Brad, our clients are looking for us to actually not only give them people, but educate them, right? Educate them on the industry. A lot of industries, as really specialized. They've got, legislation or regulation or compliance or things that they have to adhere to. They're looking for us to be able to come to them and have intelligent subject matter conversations about that and kind of guide them. So it's, in my mind, it's getting them the right candidate is the seat at the table, but staying at the table and to the point of penetration of the account, adding that value and being an industry specialist, or at least a student of the industry, right? Never going to be perfect, is key, to kind of setting yourself head and shoulders above the competition of other staffing companies.
In your experience, what's the best way to turn a meeting into an order?
Okay. So I think, first of all, it starts with, we've got to know the right questions to ask, right? Okay. I think we oftentimes, we walk into a client visit, and we think we know all the answers. And oftentimes, the more experienced we are, the more years we've been in the industry, we're really quick to jump to conclusions. But I think, first of all, ask the questions, and you need to be able to go and dig for the challenges, right? And then once you uncover what those challenges are, you need to determine what impact that's having on the customer, right? How is it affecting their business? How's it affecting them personally? How's it affecting their team? So what I try to do is lead them down the pathway of self-discovery, where they realize through my questions that what they're doing right now isn't working so well after all. And they actually have some pain points that they didn't realize, right? Like when someone tells you, oh, we're using the job boards, or, oh, the MSP's handling our hiring for us. Well, how's that working out for you? Where are they falling short? What could they be doing better? Job boards, are you sifting through, 500 resumes? What are you paying for these job boards? Again, that path of self-discovery, because if I tell them what they're doing isn't working, what they're going to do is robust that and be like, whoa, okay, you back up over there, get in your own lane. Because they come to that conclusion that it really does open up, I guess, and expose potential opportunity that's there. Further, to answer your question, I think oftentimes when we close a client meeting, we're guilty as charged, since I'm just doing a pretty sloppy job of it, right? We'll leave there with no follow-up. And that's part of, like, if you've ever heard of Sandler sales methodology, that upfront contract, hey, at the end of this, we're going to decide on what our next steps are. The next steps could be that we reconvene in 3 months when we're going to have a software release at this company. And while we're doing that, we will put that next interaction on the calendar, book it while we're right there and we have that captive audience, versus we leave, we don't really understand what our next steps are, what they need, what they expect of us. And then we find ourselves 3 months from now chasing them down, trying to get on their calendar. So I think that we need to have better closing skills. That's probably the wrong word. A better close of understanding of, when we leave this meeting, I'm going to do X, you're going to do Y, and we're going to reconvene, in 3 months, on October the 1st at 2 p.m. while I have that audience, right? So I think that's some of the components to it. And then asking the right questions, right? And there's like a litany of those, I think, that can uncover more than just a job. Because we're also focused, Brad, I think, on the job order. Need a job. And you're right, we do need a job. That's how the doors stay open, by making placements. But we need to look beyond that job order to be able to go and get client share in the account. There's, I think, some questions that we often overlook from that standpoint. And maybe we can talk about some of those.
Let's go right into it. Let's talk about those questions.
So look at it this way. I had a gentleman that many years ago, when he was training me, said, and many staffing companies are guilty of this, and many staffers are, we compare ourselves to ourselves and think we're doing a great job. Then we find out from asking questions that our competition's blowing us away. And what I mean by that is, we can maybe place 13 people a year in company X. We think we're doing tremendous. Then we sit down and have conversations. Hey, who's the top supplier here? How many placements do they have? And we find out that they're making, 80 placements a year, right? Or we have 15 contractors on assignment and they have 150. But we compare ourselves to ourselves and get this lull and think that we actually own the account, right? So what I'd say is, from a standpoint of, if you forget all else, right? I think a couple of key questions to ask are, from a grand total perspective, right? What is the total staffing spend annually for contract hires and for firm hires that they pay agencies for, right? It's a big difference if that's $5 million a year or that's $150 million a year. So total spend, contract and perm for the organization, total spend, contract and perm for the department. And then further, if you are doing contract placements, how many contractors exist in the organization as a whole, right? And then we'll want to break that down, Brad, by areas that we care about, right? If we're doing IT and we don't do finance and accounting at all, we're really, we're after the IT business. But what we want to find is what percentage of that pie do we own? And what we found time and time again, guilty as charged, sometimes we were woefully underrepresented in accounts where we thought that we were doing well, right? So I think those are some key questions to ask: total spend, contract and per, and then total number of contractors for department and for organization, at least to frame the total opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. When do you ask that question? When do you develop the courage to ask that question?
It really, quite honestly, the very beginning, I asked that question, because there's a litany of them that I ask, right? And what you'll find is, depending on who the person is, they'll have some of the answers. Some will have more answers than others. Like if you're meeting with, I'll call it the technical buyer, which would be HR or the MSP or internal talent acquisition or procurement, they'll have some of those answers. But oftentimes, if you get to that economic buyer, right, maybe the C-level person that's writing on the check, they'll tend to know all of that, right? Because they're at that level. So in reality, I ask all those questions till I get the answers, because people will know bits and pieces of it. But a few other things that I like to understand is, okay, what are the business challenges that you're having right now, right? What are some of what are some of the strategic changes that are going to be happening in your business in the next year? Because, Brad, that could be anything, right? It could be a divestiture, a move in or out of a market. It could be restructuring or organization. And those could be great opportunities for us to go put contractors in, right? Move out of the market, put contractors in. So there's those pieces to it. There's also what are their challenges in firing? What are some of the skill sets that, they can't get? And I think that point right there is a key entry point for candidate marketing. That's a great way to add value and penetrate an account that I think a lot of staffing companies have gotten a little sloppy and lazy on and don't typically do good enough. And it's a great way to add value, have conversations, and learn the organization as you're doing it, right?
Incredible mindset to have. I feel like a lot of the conversations I'm having, we're trying to get the order now. What is your current pain point now? Do you have any hiring needs now? Where are there openings now? How can I support you today? We're not thinking about those strategic changes that might be coming down the pipeline that I can help you make your life a whole lot easier in 6 months, 12 months, in setting us up for success down the line. I love that thought.
Yeah. And I think, I was doing a training class this week for some folks new to the staffing industry, and we were talking about just to that point, candidate marketing, and how beyond adding value, it really does help, have better conversations with the customer. It shows candidates that we actually have a lot to offer and we can expose them to multiple opportunities. And then, Brad, on top of everything I mentioned a moment ago, kind of the good old-fashioned organization chart, okay? We can get a lot of information off of Zoom and off of LinkedIn and out of our CRM. But what's really helped me and my teams navigate is getting an org chart to understand, okay, I'm working with application development, but there's a whole PMO group, there's a whole QA group, there's a whole system database administration group. Who runs that? What's that structure look like? So I can systematically go to each one of those people, right? Meet them and learn and uncover, hopefully what their pain points are and learn more about their organization. I find that and maybe you see this too, we'll bear down on one organization like app dev and make our placements there, put our blinders on and think we're doing a great job because we're in this one little area versus all the areas of IT or all the areas of finance or accounting. Org charts to really help us do that. A lot of times we just don't do that anymore, and we need to talk.
I think the hardest part there, and we see it a lot at Haley, is typically when you become a partner in one specific area, your client sees you as the partner in that specific area. So to bring it in Haley terms, Kim, if we were to work on a website project with you, you would really, by stereotype, only see us as that website company, even though we're a full service marketing vendor that can support you in everything that you might do. And in the same respect, on the staffing side of things, if you're making placements over here, one, your client is only seeing you as someone who can do that, but two, you're not expanding and having the conversation to get into other places in the org chart. You're not having the courage to try to break in.
Yes. You're right. It's called cross-sell. I mean, that's kind of where we were day one or day two in staffing, the whole cross-sale. And to your point, Brad, a lot of it's in education, right? Like you mentioned the Haley example. That's educating your clients, hey, while we're doing a website or while we're doing IT staffing, here are all the other ways that we can help you. Here are the other areas we can help you with. Who can I contact? Who should I be speaking with in those areas so I can educate them that we are, the words I like to use, that we're an option or a resource for them if they need. Those are the key words I use. Everybody likes options. Everybody likes resources. They may have suppliers for finance and accounting right now, but no supplier can fill 100% of the jobs 100% of the time. We're a resource if they can't do that, or an option if they can't, and then start to navigate your cross-selling. But you're right. It's an education process, and we get caught in our silo and our little vein, and we sometimes forget to do it, or staffing companies forget to do that.
Kim, how do you propose we develop a relationship with our current clients to go from a necessary evil to a trusted partner?
The necessary evil. I love that. So that kind of, in my mind, ties into retention and loyalty, right?
Sure.
So I think the very first thing that I've learned about trying to create, number one, we want loyalty, because once we get loyalty, as you know, Brad, especially being, a marketing guru that you are, loyal customers become evangelists, right? Or promoters of our service. They start to do the sales work for us, right? Hey, work with Haley Marketing, they can do X, or hey, work with company ABC staffing, here's what they've done for me. So we really want to get to that promoter, advocate, evangelist standpoint from a loyalty, building loyalty with them. But how do we get there is your question. First, I'd say we need to collect customer feedback, and a lot of staffing companies just don't do that. And I get it, Brad. It can be tough. It can be, make they're very squeamish and embarrassing, sitting in front of a customer and asking, how are we doing? What could we be doing better? Where are we falling down, right? So I'd say we need to establish a process for doing that, and we need to establish a frequency, whatever that looks like, right? There's send out surveys many different ways, sitting in front of them, online. Just get a process and get a frequency down. Most staffing companies don't do that. That's a great starting point. And then reviewing that data, and I think what we did is we started to see patterns and trends of things that we weren't doing so great at. Whoa, this is one area that keeps coming up. We need to address it. But the good news was it also, Brad, kind of exposed opportunities that we didn't even know were there. Well, you're not servicing us in the PMO, and we're going, didn't even know you had a PMO. So it started to uncover opportunities by the same token. And I'd say too, that goes hand in hand with that. We need to analyze customers where we've had turnover, right? What are the reasons for that? Sometimes it's us saying we can't be a good partner. Other times it's the customer, we're just not a good fit and good match. We need to evaluate the turnover and why it's happening. I think too, as another part, value add. We do a poor job of value add today. I believe just getting to the table is making that placement. But if we can add value to them first by asking, right? What would you deem valuable to us beyond the placement? And they'll tell you, believe it or not, they're not shy. And it could be things like as simple as conducting a webinar for them, or AI, or how to hire, or how to interview people, better, because they don't necessarily know that. Or it could be attending professional association meetings with them. It could be, putting them on a podcast, or putting them in your newsletter, or highlighting them for a blog, or sending them industry information about regulation or compliance. Anything that they deem valuable. I've just asked what would be valuable in market data, salary, skill set, geographic data, or any of those other things I just mentioned. What is it that's going to be useful to you and your organization? And let them tell you. And it really is kind of help, move us up the food chain, or move us up the value chain a little bit. I think further is, we talked about a minute ago, gaining client share and relevance. And while that's important to us, here's why it works on the other side and why it makes them loyal. Think about it, Brad. If your staffing company only places 12 people a year at company X, what's that mean? It means when they revisit the supplier list, what's that mean?
It means you're only good for 12 placements.
There you go. It means you're expendable, right? You're relevant and you're not significant. So if we do expand that client share and we're placing, 50 people a year, and we've got 75 contractors on assignment, we're significant, we're relevant, therefore we're less expendable. We're actually driving their business, and their business starts to get to a point where they would suffer, or they would be somewhat crippled if they got rid of this. So the whole client share piece not only benefits us, but benefits them, and starts to build that loyalty. Hey, ABC Staffing is doing a great job. There's no way we could possibly get rid of them. They're running all of our projects. Yeah. Then it opens up other opportunities too. So I think that those are some of the ways I think that we can kind of get out of that commoditization, or just some of the ways that I feel that I've used. And I have one more if you want.
Please, absolutely.
I think it's important for us to map a consistent client experience with them, Brad. Like, we bring on a new customer, and it could be rocky, right? In the early days, we don't have a process mapped out. On the sales side, the recruiting side, we don't have a process mapped out to work with them through the back office for billing, collections, or working with their MSP. Whatever it is, we need to sit down thoughtfully, beginning a relationship, map out all the processes that are needed, and inform the customer how we're going to handle it. Not only so we manage their expectations, but we start to get their buy-in and their participation in it too. Because there's nothing worse than a new customer. We start off on a bad foot and the relationship's just ruined. So map out a consistent experience from the beginning of sales all the way through collections to back office and support on assignment, right?
Yeah, and the more I'm listening to you, Kim, the more I'm hearing that we do not want to be expendable. We want to be as ingrained as possible into the organization as possible. And the fear that I have, and hopefully everyone listening is thinking, gosh, I need to be doing this better. My biggest fear is that we are not currently doing that. We're making a placement, we're getting order, we're finding person for the order, and we're acting very transactionally. And when we act transactionally, we are nothing more than a commodity to the clients that we work with.
Right. We're not thinking strategically. Unfortunately,
Yes.
I'm here to fill the job order and then I go away, versus thinking strategically. What are all the ways that not only I can provide value, but the ways that I can expand my client share in the account? How do I become that top supplier? And that's another question. If we asked them, who's your top supplier and why, what do we need to do to become that? They'll tell you, may not like the answers all the time, but we need to know.
I love that open and honest question. You had also talked about asking for feedback. I love feedback. There's a stat that I give in pretty much every presentation. It's 88% of individuals will give you feedback if prompted to do so.
Correct.
The challenge, Kim, is we don't ask. We're too afraid to ask. We're too afraid for feedback. We think it's too self-serving. 88% of feedback, if I said, Kim, how am I doing? What do you think about the show? What do you think of whatever it might be? Hey, what do you think of Haley Marketing? 88% of people will give you that feedback. We just need to have the courage to ask. And friends, it's really not even that courageous to ask for it.
You're right.
We just need to say, listen, this is part of our process. This is what we do.
And it's amazing. You're right. They will tell you if you ask, as you noted, but what you'll learn about maybe not only yourself, but about your company, you have to have an open mind and have a little bit of a thick skin and say, hey, it's not personal against the individual in your company. These are opportunities for us to capitalize on, right? If we listen the right way. And think about, Brad, any customer experience that you've had. If there's an issue and you tell them about it and they will call it replace plus one, and fix that issue and change, you're more loyal to them because they did that versus ignore your feedback or never ask for it in the first place.
Kim, before I let you go, I got one question for you that I've been thinking about throughout the whole conversation. One mistake that you may have made in your sales journey that someone can learn from today.
It's funny. I was just asked that yesterday in a training class, and we'll call it, I'm sure I've made plenty in the earlier days, but I'll call a recent one, or we'll call it that, past 8 to 10 years. And, I was kind of brought up in the old school, right? Of saying, get on the phone, email, all this good stuff. I neglected, it was a severe flunk. Number one, not using LinkedIn, over the past 10 years, other than just sending a connection request. Leveraging LinkedIn for community, for connection, for conversations, posting, for getting to know people. That way, as you and I both know, that attracts people to you and draws people toward you versus that constant, beating on the phone, that outbound. So I think that was a key flunk on my part, and it goes even farther. So I worked for a company that had an incredible marketing department, and I'm ashamed to admit this. I wholeheartedly ignored them. I was too closed-minded. I didn't understand it as well as I should, nor was I savvy enough to ask the questions, how can marketing help me? And what I learned the hard way is they had so many tools in their toolkits and things that they were doing and could have done to help me to attract those clients that, again, there were a tool in the toolkit that I didn't use, and it was clearly just out of stupidity. So I would tell anyone today, any staffing company you're working for, take stock of all the tools that are there, whether it's marketing, whether it's your CRM, whether it's something special you do in the back office. Determine what you can use and put into play to help you go out there and get customers and keep customers. Because a lot of staffing companies do some really great things. But if we're thinking about it just completely in our own little silo, we're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities, free help that we can get from our companies. So learn the hard way on that.
She's Kim Henderson, the managing director of Cobalt Compass Solutions. Kim, before I let you go, I want to give you the opportunity to share a little bit about yourself so that if anybody has any questions or they want to get a hold of you, they know how to do so.
Thank you, Brad. Been in staffing since 1994. Looked for 2 staffing companies my entire career. One was national and one was international. and roles everywhere from, sales and recruiting all the way through branch management, government solutions, strategic accounts to being on the executive team of both companies. And then finally, today I, as Brad mentioned, manage Cobalt Compass, and we provide training and consulting for the staffing industry. So hopefully anything that I've learned, whether it be the wrong way or the right way, hopefully I can convey that to students today and help them gain traction and get customers and be successful in the industry more quickly than without getting training. So the do's and don'ts.
And real quick, before I let you go, I got to run you through our rapid fire round if you got a second.
Go for it.
One book that has fundamentally changed your life.
There's a book, it's not new. It was for 2007. It's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And yes, I think it's by Marshall Goldsmith, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And he does an amazing job of taking stock of, here are the you go in an organization, your behavior starts to become even more important. So it's basically kind of went through some of the behaviors that sabotage you from getting to the next level and sabotage you from being good at your job. And then how to replace those behaviors with, more positive traits, more positive actions. So it was kind of eye-opening to me to learn some of these things. I'm like, whoa, I'm not doing that. I need to do a better job at that. So the book was worth its weight in gold, even though it's not a new book. I still refer to it, periodically for sure.
It's interesting. I don't know the psychology behind it, but there are certain times where things will pop up in my brain or in my world frequently, right? And maybe it's because now you're looking for them, right? You're thinking about buying a red car. Now all you see are red cars. I just learned about the book that you just referred to. What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Just heard about it on a podcast last weekend. Very, very interesting that you just brought that up again. But that is on my short stack to read. And friends, as you know, we're just building my own book library over here. Yes, this is for you, but it is mostly for me and my book collection as well.
Yeah.
And then Kim, the last question I have for you, one piece of advice that you would give to somebody just starting in the staffing and recruiting industry. What are you going to tell them?
So I had this question just yesterday with, again, some new students. And I tell them, number one, you can't get frustrated. You have to look at it, with a sense of humor and a long-term mindset. You're going to be calling and talking to people that don't want to talk to you necessarily in the beginning. It takes time, tenacity, perseverance. You have to stick to it. It can take a year or more before a particular prospect is ready, willing, and able and has a need to work with you. So not getting frustrated, sticking with it for the long term, having the right mindset, okay? Is, candidates become clients become candidates. If we do right by them today, it may not yield any dollars in our pocket, but over the long term, those individuals or companies will come back to us. So I think it's all about mindset, keeping the proper attitude and being as tenacious, and quite honestly, bulldogging it and not letting go, because that's what it takes to be good in staffing. Anyone who's done that's been successful, anyone who's given up, or really hasn't, but then had the perseverance, you'll see that they fizzle out of the industry or they have lackluster results. So enjoy it, have fun with it, and view it as a conversation, because it's going to take time, but don't let go. It can be an amazing, rewarding journey and career, as you know.
Kim, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for coming on this episode of Take the Stage, taking the stage with me.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate you inviting me in. Thank you.